friends, welcome to the All-Canadian Reptile Girl. I'm Annaliese, and real talk here, I am really bad at spelling. I know I normally throw a self-deprecating joke or silly one-liner at the beginning of my videos. This is not one of those times. I am categorically, homogeneously, hilariously unfit to practice spelling in any capacity. But while I am bad at spelling, I do at least know my ABCs. And today we will be going through the ABCs of reptile care.
What does that mean?
Well, when new owners first dip their toes into the wild and wacky world of reptile keeping, they are inundated with all sorts of terms, abbreviations, technical jargon, whatever. It can be a bit confusing or overwhelming, or both. So, I am here to help give you 26 terms alphabetically that you need to know if you are new to the hobby. And if you're not new to the hobby, you might already know all these, but maybe you don't. Maybe you won't learn much in this video, but maybe you will. But you'll still at least hang out for a few minutes anyway, right? Why wouldn't you? And funny, charming, cute, we'll have a good time. You might learn something, maybe. So let's go. Okay, 26 is a lot of letters, so let's jump right in with A for albino. This is one that most people will say, oh, I know that one. But in my experience, most normies who don't regularly interact with reptiles get this one wrong. This is Frostbite. He is a corn snake, and when I do live shows and bring him out, almost like clockwork, one of the participants will either blurt out or lean into someone nearby and knowingly say, "That's an albino." But I'm sorry, this is not an albino, nor is this, nor is this. This is an albino. So is this. And this. Not this. So what did you notice? Albinos aren't all white. Albinism is a lack of melanin, a dark brown-black pigment. With melanin gone, depending on the species, there are still other pigments that are going to be present, yellows and reds primarily in reptiles. Now, Frostbite does carry albino genes. As you can see, there are no blacks or browns on him. But he also carries genes that remove any other pigment too. So Frostbite is what's known as a snow corn snake, not an albino. Okay, that took a bit of time right off the hop. Let's rapid fire a couple. B, brumation. A hibernation-like state some reptiles enter in cooler months, typically burrowing down below any frost layer to a safe, cozy spot. That, while still quite cool, is a fairly stable temperature to sit out the winter. C, carapace, the top part of a turtle or tortoise shell. The bottom part here, that's the plastron. Bonus P word for you there. D, dewlap, a flap of skin under the throat seen in species like anoles and iguanas and bearded dragons. They use this to communicate as a defense mechanism. If he's threatened, Pirate Pete will flare out his really wide and turn it black to make him look really big and scary. There's even a special bone in there to help really show it off. Fun fact, not just reptiles have a dewlap. Bunnies, females especially, also have a dewlap, and they will pluck out fur from that extra skin to insulate, pad, and cozy up their nests for their bebés. E for ectotherm, an animal that relies on external heat sources to regulate their body temperature. So pretty much all reptiles except for birds, even Raylan here. I'll be referencing a lot of videos, that I've previously done today, so there are probably going to be more than I can link with the cards up here. Goodness. Okay, hold on. Pardon me. Sorry about that. Probably more than I can link with the cards here, so instead, I'll just link to a playlist that I've created just for this video. You can check out my video on temperature regulation, and the thumbnail looks like this. Here. F is for feeders. This generally refers to bugs like crickets, roaches, mealworms, and flightless fruit flies used as reptile food. Now, usually the word feeders just on its own refers to insects, but not always. Feeder mice, feeder rats. Just food. It means food, but you probably got that from context. Relating to feeders is G for gut loading. This is the practice of feeding nutritious food to feeder insects a day or two before you offer them to your reptiles. The idea is that the insects will be packed full of vitamins and nutrients that the reptiles can't normally get. There's a lot of good nutrients in, let's say, leafy greens, but your leopard gecko isn't able to eat it because not only would they probably not see the greens as food, but even if they did eat it, their biology and gut biome is just not equipped to properly digest and couldn't really absorb any of the goodies. Feeding it to the feeders first, though, and having them start the digestion process helps get more and better nutrients into your pet. You can do this with rodents too if you feed live. Giving the rat or mouse a really great last meal is an awesome way to get good nutrients into your snake. Even if you use frozen thawed rodents, which you should really be doing, over live feeding whenever possible, you can gut load some additional vitamins by just squirting some into the frozen thawed prey with a syringe, and the vitamins will be just in water, so they're kind of dissolved. Get the right vitamins. Don't just like go to your pharmacy. Don't do just research. You don't need to do this with rodents all the time, but if you're rehabbing a sick or dehydrated snake, or there are some other issues, it is a viable approach. Where were we? Oh, right, H for hygrometer. This is a device used to measure humidity in an enclosure. These cheap plastic dial ones that come in many reptile starter kits suck. Well, they can be okay in a pinch. They'll often give you a rough range, but will not be highly accurate, and they are prone to the needle sticking, and you'd have no way of knowing that. So you think the humidity is one thing, but it's really something else. Yeah. Regardless of the species, proper humidity is always important, so I don't recommend them. Thankfully, little digital ones like this are much more accurate and still really cheap. I get a dozen for 30 bucks, and they work great for most situations. But for species where it is super critical and humidity must be closely monitored and maintained within a very narrow parameter, get a high quality digital hygrometer. Something with a probe can be just ideal so that you can quickly check various parts of the tank with improved accuracy. Don't rely on the cheap and free stuff. Your reptile's health and well-being depend on it. I is for impaction, a blockage in the digestive system, often caused by ingesting substrate or an improper diet. This can be fatal, so first sign of an issue,
get thee to a nunnery.
No, but get them to a reptile vet. J is a tricky one. Let's go with Jacobson organ, a sensory organ with openings on the roof of the mouth in reptiles and many other animals too, that helps them detect chemical cues. In reptiles, those cues are picked up by the tongue. It's commonly referenced that snakes and lizards use their tongue and Jacobson organ to smell, and that's not exactly true. They smell with their nose, like you or I, but they do use their tongue and Jacobson organ to detect and interpret olfactory and other chemical information in a different way than smelling. Whole video on that in the playlist here. Definitely look at this one. I had a real proper, leading authority on the subject science guy, Dr. Kurt Schwank, help me with that video. Footage, research, fact checking, the whole shebang. He's great. Go check it out. K, keratin. This is the tough, durable protein that makes up reptile scales and turtles' shells. It makes up your hair and your fingernails too. L, lamellae. The specialized scales on a gecko's feet that help them just to stick to surfaces. Under a microscope, these scales look more like thousands upon thousands of tiny hairs with even tinier hairs on them. This creates unbelievable amounts of surface area for gecko magic to spring forth, allowing them to walk on ceilings. Want to know more about how that works? You guessed it! M, metabolic bone disease, MBD, a serious condition caused by calcium deficiency and lack of UVB. We'll talk more about UVB soon. This painful condition causes deformities and a whole host of health issues, including death. It's no joke. Do your research. If your animal needs UVB, it's not negotiable. For N, we have nocturnal, animals that are active at night. This, along with diurnal, which means active during the day, is a pretty common term that I'm sure most, if not all of you, are familiar with, even if you don't keep reptiles. But it's a good segue to a related term you might not be familiar with, and is what many animals labeled as nocturnal actually are in the wild. And that term is cathemeral, or meternal if you want to be super fancy, which means, well, they're just active whenever they want or need to be. Dumerals, boas, carpet pythons, even cats like Beckett here, are great examples of animals often described as nocturnal, but are actually cathemeral. As an extra tidbit to share on trivia night about animals, animals that are primarily active at dusk or dawn, like many bats, are crepuscular. That's a fun word to say, right? Oh, what's that? We need a word for O? Well, I got you. Oviparous, reptiles that lay eggs. But not all reptiles do this. You also have viviparous reptiles that give birth to live young, not too dissimilarly to us. Most boas, for example, do that. There are also reptiles that kind of blend the two. These are ovoviviparous reptiles. Garter snakes are a wonderful example of this. The young incubate in an actual egg, but the egg is not laid by the mom. It is instead incubated internally. The young hatch inside the mom and then are born live afterwards. After hatching, that is. 2 births for the price of 1. What a deal! And the mom gets to absorb back the calcium from the eggs then, which is also good. You guessed it, there's a video here all about that. I will also have all of these linked in the description of this video too. On a related note to O, we have P for parthenogenesis. This is where a female reptile reproduces without a male. Generally, the offspring will be basically a clone of the mom. Parthenogenic reptiles are usually exclusively female, but occasionally a male does pop up. Mourning geckos and Brahminy blind snakes, probably the most common and widespread snake species on the planet that you likely have never seen or heard of, but are everywhere, are great examples of parthenogenic species. But it is possible for non-parthenogenic species to, in rare cases, spontaneously reproduce parthenogenically. Recently, there have actually been examples of anacondas and Komodo dragons that cloned a new version of themselves. I wonder if they argue about who's the clone and who's the original, like the Muller twins.
Say it, or stay here forever. I'm the clone.
A bonus letter P would be for Patreon, which I have one of which I have one. Patreon.com/AllCanadianReptileGirl if you are interested in joining the awesomest of awesome folks who like my content. In addition to my eternal and heartfelt thanks, my patrons get early access to my videos, extra content like, for example, a video about a wildlife rescue that happened in my very home, in this very room, that required my dad to cut holes out of the ceiling right over there and there that he still hasn't fixed yet. Lame. Anyway, all sorts of stuff is over there. Please go check it out. I appreciate the support so much. Thanks. Or should I be formal and say thank Q, as in Q for quarantine, the practice of keeping a new or sick animal separate from the rest to prevent disease being spread? I'm sorry. Look, you never know what your new pet might have been exposed to at the store or with the previous owner or breeder. Quarantine gives you time to assess the health of your reptile and make sure that they don't have any diseases or parasites that could be spread to your other pets. Within reason, the longer the quarantine, the better. 30 days is the bare minimum. Personally, I recommend at least 90 days, but I know lots of folks that quarantine for 6 or even 12 months, and that's a-okay too. Next up is a gross one. It's R for regurgitation. When a reptile, most often a snake, basically just vomits up its food, often due to stress, illness, or improper temperatures. But sometimes just cuz. Just to make your life a little bit more difficult and disgustingly odorous. If your snake regurges, you'll know before you even open the door to the room. It's so foul, you don't understand. Anyways, if your snake regurges, just give them a week or 2 before feeding again, as they may be sensitive and uncomfortable from their stomach acids and may regurge again from the stress or uncomfortable feeling of the new food already aggravating their esophagus. A one-off regurg on an otherwise perfectly healthy snake may not be a big deal, but it could also be a sign of bigger problems, much bigger problems. So when it happens, check your temps, your humidity, monitor for illness and stress, and if you see any other signs of uh-oh, or if it happens more than once in a short period of time, get them to a vet, even if everything else seems fine, just to double check. We're at what? S? S for shed. The process of a reptile shedding its old skin, often called in shed or in blue, zombie mode, or I suppose if you want to be technical, ecdysis. Video in that playlist here explaining all of that, as well as the scandalous revelation that snakes are, in fact, slimy. I know. Go watch the video after this one, please. Don't just leave. All right, let's go with thermoregulation for T. How reptiles control their body temperature using external heat sources like the sun or sun-warmed ground, rocks, wood, etc. I already referenced this video, but there you go again. Up next is U for UVB light. Told you I'd get to this. UVB is a type of ultraviolet light. UV meaning ultraviolet, and the B indicates the type. There are 3 wavelengths of UV light: UVA, UVB, and UVC. Some reptiles require UVB to synthesize vitamin D3 and absorb calcium. For those species, UVB is essential, full stop. They will die a slow, painful death without it. UVB lights are more expensive and you can't skimp on quality lighting. Make sure that you factor in that cost when planning for what you're gonna need for your pet. Even species that don't need UVB, it is still a best practice to provide it. While these animals can synthesize vitamin D3 and absorb calcium, without it, UVB lets them do it more or better. Give your animals their best life. Give them UVB if you can, even if they don't need it. And if they do need it, give it to them. And remember to replace your bulbs every 6 to 12 months, depending on the brand. V is for venomous versus poisonous. Fun one. People mixing these two terms up can be triggering for a lot of reptile folks. Both venom and poison are toxins. Venom is injected while poison is ingested or absorbed. If it bites you and you get sick, it was venomous. If you bite something and you get sick, it was poisonous. Oh, and for those folks that get all worked up when someone mislabels a snake as poisonous, like I used to do, get worked up, that is, not the mislabeled part. Remember, some snakes are actually poisonous, usually only if they're eating the right diet. Garter snakes, hognose snakes, and keelback snakes, for example, are all potentially poisonous, as well as being venomous. So, kind of cool. You know the drill. Anyways, another thing to keep in mind is that in some languages, there is not a distinction between the two. So someone whose native language isn't English might say poisonous in English because that is the correct term in their native language, and they may not know that another term is more appropriate in English. So be kind and cut them some slack, eh? It's not that big of a deal anyways. Next, we have W for wild caught. You'll come across this term at expos, stores, or listings of reptiles for sale. Wild caught, or WC, means a reptile that was captured in the wild and is now for sale in captivity. If you see CB, or captive bred, those are reptiles that were born in human care. CBB is captive, born, and bred. These are reptiles who were born in human care from parents who were also born in human care. So at least 2 generations captive bred. Of these terms, wild caught is the one you might want to avoid. There are a host of health risks with wild caught animals, ranging from parasites to stress to other zoonotic illnesses. You may have behavioral challenges, and/or you might be affecting wild populations, or even supporting poaching. In most cases, we should be doing our best to buy captive bred and ultimately captive born and bred when buying a new pet. Do your research, buy responsibly. X is for xanthophores. Not a great choice, I know, I'm sorry. These are pigment cells responsible for yellow and orange colors in reptiles. Snake morphs lacking yellow or orange are called axanthic. I could have put that with albino in A, I suppose. Oh well, I don't have much to say on this one. X is a tricky letter to come up with a word for. I guess I could have used xeric environment. I mean, that one's fun to say, right? And that means a dry desert-like habitat. Okay, pick whichever one you want. We're on the home stretch here. And tell me where I was wrong with that one in the comments below. It's gonna be so obvious too. We're gonna be like,
Yeah, probably.
how did we not see it? But, you know, hindsight, 2020, all that. W. No. Why? I know my letters. That's what editing's for.
That's true.
Why? Yolk sac. The nutrient-rich sac baby reptiles absorb mostly before hatching/birth, but sometimes will take many days post-hatching to absorb. So it just kind of follows them around in a little goopy trail. It's kind of gross, but you know, the miracle of life too. And finally, Z.
And it is pronounced Zed, not Z, Zed!
Which I can think of no better Z word more fun to say than zygodactyl, which refers to toes arranged in pairs, like we see on chameleons. It gives the weirdest feeling when they walk on you. It's like, it's so weird. You should experience it. It's cool though. Do you know me or not? You should have known I would have had a link.
Okay.
So there you go. 26 terms for 26 letters of the English alphabet, with a couple of bonus ones. I hope you found this helpful, or at least entertaining. If you have any terms for particular letters that you think I should have used, still struggling with X, please let me know in the comments below. If you liked this format and want me to do another one, let me know that too, and I might do a part 2. As always, a special extra thanks to my friends on Patreon. Thank you to you all watching, and I hope you liked the video. If you did, please actually hit the like button and give it a thumbs up. You know the drill. Subscribe, share this with your friends if you think that they'd like it. All of that stuff is really, really helpful. And until next time, remember to nurture all nature. Bye!